it's a problem. It's becoming an issue. Yeah.
You got it.
All right, brother. Take it from there. Appreciate your time. See you everywhere, everybody. All right, it's Wednesday, 4 p.m. The markets are closed. Take a look at how they fared. A little bit of a down day across the board, folks. I saw the Dow drop a bit, down 162 as my last print here. Nasdaq down 75. Is down a lot more earlier. Had a tough day yesterday. Oil prices were up $1.42. That's a tough one. That's going to hurt a little bit. Gold down $50. Not a good day across the board. Crypto did bounce back. So a lot of mixing and mashing going back and forth with all of that. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Yesterday, President Trump spoke at the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, where he focused on energy, border security, and immigration. Here to give us an update on that event is White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly. Anna, really good to have you. That was one part of those moments. I really want to get to all the things he said, especially when he told Europe they're going to screw everything up. But this whole idea, do we know anything more about the broken escalator as Melania and Donald Trump got on it? And then the teleprompter, which I'm sure pissed him off enough where he said, forget that 15 minutes I'm allotted at UN General Assembly, and he took the hour and ad-lib for an hour. So do we have any more in the investigation on who done it?
We don't have any updates on that investigation at this point, but there is an investigation ongoing. I know Caroline announced this last night. The Secret Service is looking into this because we had just a week ago reports, and I believe it was the Times of London, about UN staffers joking about what if they played a prank on the president by stopping the escalator. And look, that's no prank. That's an extremely concerning risk if that were to be true. And so the Secret Service is looking into this. We don't have any updates at this point, but I'll say, as someone who was with the president backstage, he was in good spirits, even despite all of those mishaps, because I think you and I agree, Eric, it was a great speech. He did what he does best. He told the truth. He did it directly to the globalists in the audience by bringing up, as you mentioned, some of these radical globalist policies that are truly wrecking formerly free nations around the world, unchecked migration, Green New Scam type energy policies that are driving up costs and truly making America the last defender of Western civilization in this world. And so all things considered, it was a great speech. And so I think the president was quite pleased with how it went. But we are certainly looking into that incident because it's incredibly concerning if it was deliberate.
You know, when this first happened, when the escalator thing first happened, I was like, that's odd. And then can you imagine for just a second? I'm just going to speculate here. You don't have to weigh in if you don't want to. You are the deputy press secretary. If he just said, you know what, screw you, UN, screw you. We don't need you. You need us. We don't need you. He walked out and said, you're on your own. Can you imagine what would happen? That would just have been the moment of all moments for President Trump. Because honestly, what the hell do we need the United Nations for? Honestly, I lived in New York for 40 years. It was the worst week in my entire existence in New York when the General Assembly came to New York.
Well, I think he kind of did get at some of that messaging, right? He talked about the fact that it was this president, President Trump, who ended 7 conflicts just in 8 months. Where was the UN while the president was personally negotiating ends to decades-long wars between the DRC and Rwanda, Armenia and Azerbaijan? Those are just two of the 7, both 30-plus year-long conflicts that were resolved not by Joe Biden, not by the UN, but this president. And so I think he kind of talked about that. Of course, the UN is an organization that should be leading efforts to deliver peace around the world. And so I think he recognizes the UN has so much potential, and yet they failed to meet that potential. And so that's why he brought up his desire for the UN to reach that potential, to maybe relieve some of its efficacy problems that we've seen over the past several decades. And as he said, the only thing he got out of the UN was a broken escalator and a broken teleprompter. But nonetheless, it was a great speech, and I think he was very pleased at the end of the day.
Yeah, because it really gave him the opportunity to go off script and say what is actually on his mind. If people want to wonder what's on Donald Trump's mind, listen to when the teleprompter is broken, because there you find out. And he told Europe, you're going to screw everything up. It's going to be a disaster for you if you keep on your immigration policy, et cetera. I found it fascinating. Just before we came to air yesterday, he was sitting down with Macron, President Macron of France, and he said that he made some news, and initially a lot of folks jumped thought Trump is now going to start supporting Ukraine again. I read it as it was a good opportunity for Trump to say, hey, Ukraine, you have a chance to take back your own land, but we're not going to do it. We're going to continue to supply NATO with arms and help NATO because we're part of NATO, but we're not going to be getting involved in direct, assets and transfer of payment and money and weapons to Ukraine directly anymore. And I found that very, very refreshing.
Well, this is a vast change from the Russia-Ukraine stance under Biden, right? Under Biden, we were sending billions and billions of dollars unchecked, unaccounted for to Ukraine with no end in sight. This president, in contrast, has brought these two nations together to get us closer to peace. And American taxpayers are benefiting now because we are, as you said, selling these American-made weapons to NATO allies who are then backfilling some of these munitions that they are sending to Ukraine. So now, unlike Joe Biden, where we were paying billions and billions of dollars, American taxpayers, American companies, American communities are now benefiting from this. And look, this president has been very clear. He wants this war to end. I think he was making a very accurate observation that with all of the odds stacked against Ukraine, when all the experts predicted this would be done in just days, Ukraine's put up a great fight. And so I think he was making that observation. But at the end of the day, he wants this conflict to end. And so he's going to continue to push for that.
Did I read it correctly, though, Anna? Did I read it correctly that we're no longer going to be sending money and weaponry directly to Ukraine? It's going to have to go through NATO?
Well, the president's been quite consistent on that. He said, as you know, we had that very historic NATO defense spending pledge, encouraging NATO allies to step up to increase their defense spending to 5%. Again, another thing that no one thought could be achieved.
Allow me. I just mean regarding Ukraine. And those, like, I get NATO. Yeah, he wants NATO to do their 2%, like their pledge, and it's what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, so I'm come from the side that says Ukraine and Russia war has nothing to do with us. I get it, that you don't want communism spreading throughout NATO countries and whatnot, but most of the MAGA, I'll speak for MAGA here, doesn't want any more of that. We don't want to spend any more money. We don't want to lose any more blood or treasure in foreign wars that don't affect us directly. It sounded like this was his moment to say, Ukraine, you're on your own. We're going to help NATO. And I don't think there's any push by President Trump to get Ukraine in NATO, is there?
Well, the president, as you said, has kind of alluded to the same things you're talking about, right? He wants Europe to take charge of his own defense. That's what all of these policies are about. Again, making sure that we are reversing course on the failed Biden policies to just send billions and billions of dollars of unchecked, unmarked checks to Ukraine. This president is saying Europe needs to take charge of their own defense. Again, like the president has said also, we're prepared to put more economic pressure on Russia, but Europe also must step up because Europe, while calling for an end to this war, is also simultaneously funding the war with purchases of Russian oil. So Europe needs to step up. They need to stop purchasing Russian oil and funding this war. They also need to do what the president is doing and put pressure on allies of Russia like India, even our friends, right? We are willing to look anyone in the eye to say, you need to stop funding this war that is perpetuating this killing. So yes, the president has been very clear. Europe needs to step up, do its part. That's why he negotiated this historic NATO defense spending pledge. That is why he is selling U.S.-made weapons to NATO and calling for this to end. But at the end of the day, again, Europe needs to do its part.
Very quickly, Turkey. I think Erdogan's coming to the White House next week, if I'm not mistaken. Erdogan is he's a key player. He's a Middle East negotiator, almost like a clearinghouse. They take both sides. And a lot of it has to do with countries buying Russian oil. Some of it has to pass through Turkey. How is Trump going to get Erdogan to really just take the side which is the best interest for the United States?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the president and anything he plans to discuss. I will leave that to him. But again, the president wants this war to end. And what is not helpful is countries, our allies, our friends like India and even Turkey, all of these countries who are contributing to this funding of this war effort while simultaneously calling for the war to end. It doesn't make sense. This president privately and publicly has called on all countries who are invested in ending the war to stop the killing to put their money where their mouth is and stop financing these purchases of Russian oil. So I wouldn't be surprised if that comes up tomorrow. But again, I'll leave it to the president
to announce. Is Turkey a friend of the United States? Is Turkey friendly to? I mean, I've been doing this for half my adult life, And I can't figure out where Turkey stands. I literally cannot. Is Trump going to welcome him like a pseudo ally? Where is that relationship?
Well, again, I'll leave it to the president to share what he chooses to discuss. But I think what makes President Trump so good at what he does is he's going to look anyone in the eye to deliver better results to our country, to deliver hard truths like he did just yesterday at the UN. So I don't want to get ahead of him, but I'm sure that we will see some commentary and some results out of that bilateral, which is actually tomorrow. So stay tuned.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Okay, my bad. I thought it was next week. Okay, that will be fascinating. I'm going to keep my eye on that. Also, when he's sitting with Macron, he pushed back on Macron pretty hard when Macron said that I believe they said France was going to recognize Palestine as a state, and Trump pushed back. Your thoughts? What do you know? What was Trump's reaction after that?
Yeah, I think President Trump has spoken to this quite publicly, right? President Trump's priority is the release of all the hostages, not just some, not just a trickle. He wants all of the hostages out, and also the bodies. There are so many families who are tragically know that their loved ones were lost, and they are waiting for the remains of those loved ones. The president wants to see all of that released, and so he's been very clear. Efforts to recognize Palestine as a state, which it is not, are not helpful to delivering a lasting peace in the region. That's what this president wants to see. That includes disarming Hamas, and that includes releasing all of the hostages in order for a lasting peace in the region to be achieved.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Anna Kelly, White House Press Deputy Press Secretary. Always great to have you on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Hey, listen, when inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think, well, maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification? Well, guess what? Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. I certainly do. I have a lot of gold. I've had it for many, many decades. And so Birch Gold has created something special until September 30th. Few days from now. If you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering you a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text the word America to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA. If it's in stocks or bonds, you can roll it into or a 401k for that matter, roll them into gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. So you're literally not spending any more money. You're just turning an IRA or 401k into a gold IRA or 401k. Great idea. Birch Gold is the only precious metals company I trust, as do tens of thousands of their customers. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate of up to $10 grand, folks, when you buy by September 30th. Text that word, America, to 989898. Claim your eligibility. Get your free info kit. And again, text America, the word AMERICA, to 989898. And I better not have to teach you how to spell the word America. All right. So, The Edge. We had Brett Favre last week. This week we're delving into the health hacks that men are using as we get a little older, 40, 50, 60. We're trying different things. Take a little taste of what's coming out tomorrow. The testosterone, aside from, however, the biochemical things that are going on in your body, it also it tells your brain, it entices your brain into wanting to do more, wanting to lift more, wanting to walk further, run further, and becoming stronger. That's an interesting concept. That's not is it medical? Is it biochemical?
It's really not medical. In other words, there's no receptors in your brain that the testosterone affects that are called the pleasure or enjoyment, receptors. So when you exercise or whatever. So I think what that is, though, there are receptors that involve, motivation. It affects the neuronal circuits for motivation. It affects the neuronal circuits for your sort of reward system, your emotional processing, your sense of well-being.